The Civil Rights Act of 1964, enacted on July 2nd, 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a landmark piece of civil rights legislation in the United States. It outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It ended unequal application of voter registration requirements and racial segregations in schools, at the workplace, and by facilities that serve the general public. Powers given to enforce the act were severely weak, but were supplemented during the later years. The Congress asserted its authority to legislate under several different parts of the United States Constitution. Its duty is to guarantee all citizens equal protection of the laws under the 14th Amendment, and its duty to protect voting rights under the 15th Amendment. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed into law by President Johnson on July 2nd, 1964 at the White House. Civil and political rights are a class of rights that protects individuals' freedom. They ensure one's ability to participate in the civil and political life of the society and state without discrimination or oppression. The civil rights movement was, among the other things, an attempt of black and white together, a bonding based on a joint fight against evil, even though the partners were not similarly situated in their suffering. They wanted to once again find that kind of politics, one that cuts across racial, ethnic, and class lines to pursue those issues directly affecting the daily struggles of the people at the heart of the movement, and the one that articulates and maintains the identities of the unique history of people of color. When President Johnson formally signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 into the law, many dignitaries, including Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and several other national civil rights figures, attended the ceremony. This law banned racial discriminations in several areas, including hotels, education areas, and other public places. This landmark act also guaranteed equal job opportunities, fulfilling one major objective of the historic 1963 March on Washington. Many larger Southern businesses had already desegregated in response to dine-ins and other civil rights protests. But the Civil Rights Act of 1964 added important legal protections to these political and social developments. Almost immediately, the new civil rights law came under legal challenge. An owner of a motel argued that the Congress did not have the authority under the U.S. Constitution to ban segregation in public accommodation. The owner of the motel refuses to accept African American customers in his motel. Before this movement began, there was people in the shadow that helped everyone open their eyes in order to see and seek for help. Before everything subsided, there was people who served as shadows to help move the movement and spark everyone's eyes about how they feel. A 14-year-old Emmett Till, an African American from Chicago, is brutally murdered for flirting with a white woman. He was then beaten nearly to death, gouged his eyes out, shot him in the head, and then threw his body, tied the cotton gin fan with barbed wire, into the river. Less than 2 weeks after Emmett's body was found, the killers went on a trial in a segregated courthouse in Sumner, Mississippi. His case brought to light the brutality of Jim Crow segregation in the South and was an early fetus of African American civil rights movement. Another historical figure who fought for their rights is Rosa Parks, an African American civil rights activist who refused to surrender her bus seat to a white passenger. During this period of time, people rallied for social, legal, political, and cultural changes to prohibit discrimination and segregation. Many important events involving discrimination against African Americans preceded the time frame known as the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 stands as a bridge to most races, mostly to the African Americans. This led to a successful society that we have today. Without this act, violence would still exist and the non-stop discrimination and action that lack respect would still render.